السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله وكفى وسلام على عباده الذين اصطفى. أما بعد، أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر. صدق الله العظيم. All praise are due to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who has created us, sustained us, and above all created us in the best of ummah, that is the ummah of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. There was a great challenging time in the history of Islam under the guidance of Muhammad ibn al-Maslama. The Muslim army reached a fort and were unable to conquer this fort because the fort was closed. The enemy from within were holding the doors of this fort. Muhammad ibn al-Maslama came with his army right till the door, tried very, very hard to penetrate this door so that the Muslim army could go in and conquer. Whilst they were busy at the door, there was one person in the Muslim army who went to the side and started digging a hole. So some walked past him, he looked so calm whilst digging this hole that they just ignored him. And everybody else focused on the door. This man eventually dug to a point where he had dug under the wall. He then slipped himself in, ran to the front, opened this door. The Muslim army entered, they conquered. And at that point, Muhammad ibn al-Maslama realized that the victory of this Muslim army at that time was because of the man who was very calmly digging that hole, got in and opened the door. The next day he made an announcement. And he said, I want to know who was the man that opened the door. So nobody came forward. He then, after the next salah, made an announcement and he said, as Amir of this army, I'm giving you in the name of Allah that whoever opened the door must come to me. So the next day, he was resting at the time after Dhuhr, and a man came with his face covered. Came to the guard, and the guard asked him, are you the man that opened the door? So he said, no, I know him. So he opened the door, he allowed him to go in. This man came in front of Muhammad ibn al-Maslama and he said, you took the name of Allah that you want to know who the person is. I know who the person is, but he has got 3 conditions. He will only disclose his identity on 3 conditions. First condition, you will not announce the name of this man. Second condition, you will not give him any reward. Third condition, you will not write this incident or his name in the report that goes to the Amirul Mu'mineen. So Muhammad ibn al-Maslama looked down, he thought for a while, and he said, okay, for my personal self, I really want to know who this man is. I will accept all 3 conditions. So the man lifted his shawl and he said, I opened the door. He stood up and he walked out. And the only time this was disclosed was after the man passed away. And Muhammad ibn al-Maslama said, record this. Zainul Abidin rahimahullah, the great grandson of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, passed away. And the man who gave his ghusl said, وَجَدْنَا عَلَى ظَهْرِهِ آثَارَ السَّوَادِ. We found black lines on his back. What is that? أَثَرُ الْحُمَّالِ. Those who would walk around and carry heavy items as a job, they would form these black lines because of the rope. So this man was perplexed. He thought this wasn't a man who used to walk around carrying people's things. I wonder what are these marks. He passed away. They gave him ghusl, kafan, buried him, read his janazah salah. The next morning, a whole group of people came to Baytul Mal, the national treasury. And they said, every morning when we opened our door at the time of Fajr, there was food on our doorstep. This morning there was no food. So Baytul Mal said, we didn't arrange this, we don't even know who did this. Second day, same thing. The third day, the same thing. Then the man who gave the ghusl came in front and said, the man you are looking for is the man who passed away 3 days ago, the great grandson of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who every morning before Fajr would leave food on the doorstep of all the poor people until the day he passed away. Nobody found out. From these incidents in the history of Islam, we learn something. Whatever we do must be for Allah. وَمَا أُمِرُوا إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُوا اللَّهَ مُخْلِصِينَ لَهُ الدِّينَ. Allah says, when you do it for me. When you do something, do it for Allah. What did Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam say? I fear upon my ummah something worse than Dajjal. What is that? A shirkul khafi. That hidden shirk. The inconspicuous shirk. What is that? That when we do something, we do it for somebody else to see. We do it for somebody else to know. Shaitan doesn't like the good. Muslims do good throughout the world. Every minute, every second, there are millions of Muslims doing good throughout the world. Shaitan's first step, he tries to stop you from doing the good. If he couldn't stop you whilst you're doing the good, he tries to change your intention. If he couldn't get it there and you completed the action, after your action, he makes you talk about it. He wants you to boast about it. Why? Because that just breaks it. Abu Musa al-Ash'ari radiallahu anhu said, fear the shirk, fear this boasting, fear this doing things for somebody else. Why? فَإِنَّهُ أَخْفَى مِن دَبِيبِ النَّمْلِ. He said, it's more hidden and inconspicuous than an ant. As I stand here now, an ant could be walking behind me, I'm completely oblivious, I don't even know. An ant could be walking on me, I don't even know. How many times hasn't Shaitan broken us with this and we don't even know? The old people used to always give an example. They would say you went to somebody's house after he came from Hajj to go and have Zamzam and dates. So the man sits with all his guests and what does he tell his son? Bring the glasses from my 7th Hajj. Why? Because he needed to tell the people in the room that I've been for 7 Hajj. How often don't we hear Shaitan makes us, a person walks up and says, I don't like to talk, but I built that masjid. If we don't like to talk, why say it? Why say it? Zainul Abidin rahimahullah was on his way for Hajj. And the whole group are reading the talbiyah, labbaik Allahumma labbaik. And he's not saying labbaik. So they're telling him, you need to say the labbaik, we are going into ihram. And he breaks down. And he can't control himself. And they're saying, all you have to say is labbaik. And he says, I fear that I am saying labbaik, Allah, I'm present, and Allah says, you're not welcome. Zainul Abidin. What does Shaitan do? We go for Hajj or we go for Umrah, take out a phone, in ihram, on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, everywhere. Why? Labbaik Allahumma labbaik, performing our Umrah now. Why? When Allah brought you right till there, why does the world need to know? When we're making a khatam of Quran, how often doesn't Shaitan say, put it on the group, tell them you're making khatam and ask who wants dua. So we put a big message on the group, making my khatam today, does anybody need dua? I'm about to make my khatam. Imam Malik rahimahullah would make a khatam sometimes every day, every second day, every third day. They say it was never more than 4 days to make a khatam of the Quran. His student, a new student, went to live with him. He says, فَوَاللَّهِ صَحِبْتُهُ أَرْبَعَةَ أَشْهُرٍ. He says, 4 months I stayed with Imam Malik. فَوَاللَّهِ مَا شَعَرْتُ بِخَتْمِهِ. Not one occasion did I realize today he made a khatam or now he made a khatam. Not even once. When reading the Quran, how many beautiful incidents in the history of Islam. Ibn Abi Layla had a habit of reading Quran all the time. But he always kept a shawl on his shoulder. And if anybody walked in, he would drop the shawl over the Quran so nobody knows he was reading. Today we're reading Quran and somebody walks in and says, just hold on, I just got 2 pages left for my khatam or for my para. وَمَا أُمِرُوا إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُوا اللَّهِ. Ayyub Sakhtiyani rahimahullah, if you mention Jannah in front of him, he couldn't control himself, he would cry. He couldn't even mention Jannah out of the love of Allah, he would cry. Only his students knew this. They say if he ever was in presence of anybody else and someone read about Jannah or spoke about Jannah and he would break down, he would immediately say, please forgive me, I have a flu. So they mustn't even know he's crying out of the love of Allah. Hassan radiallahu anhu would go to bed every night, lay next to his wife, and then he would pretend to fall asleep. And then when he thinks his wife is fallen asleep, he would slip out of bed, he would go into another room, he would read Salatul Tahajjud. When he's done, he would come back and quietly slide back into bed. He didn't even want his own wife to know he was reading Tahajjud Salah. Somebody asked Abu Umama radiallahu anhu, Tamim ad-Dari radiallahu anhu, tell me something, what du'as do you make at the time of Tahajjud? So he ignored it. They asked him a second time. The third time he said, a person who gets up for Tahajjud will never tell the next person, I got up for Tahajjud. So they said, why? He said, because when Allah gives you the ability to get up for Tahajjud, that's your personal time, your private time with Allah. You don't want anyone to know about it. Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, 3 people on the day of Qiyamah will come before Allah. A man will come and Allah will say to the angels, throw him into Jahannam. And the man will say, Ya Allah, I read the Quran. How can you throw me into Jahannam? And Allah will say, قَرَأْتَ لِيُقَالْ فُلَانٌ Qari. You did it so people must say he's a Qari. That's why you read. You didn't read for me. Jahannam. A second man will come. A wealthy man who gave a lot of charity. And Allah will say, Jahannam, into hell. He'll say, Allah, I gave so much in your path. Allah will say, you gave so people must say you are generous. You didn't do it for me. That was not for me. Go and get your reward from those who you did it for. A man will come on the day of Qiyamah and say, Allah, I died as a martyr. I gave my life for you. Allah will say, you did it so people must say you were brave. Go to those people and get your reward. There's no reward for you. By Allah, when we hear this hadith, it's so scary. Imagine coming before Allah on the day of Qiyamah thinking we did good. There's no jokes in front of Allah. There's no hiding. And there's no games with Allah. When you come before Allah and we think I did all this in the world, anticipating I'm going to come there, and there's nothing. This is what shaitan wants to do to us. May Allah protect us all from ever doing anything for anyone besides Allah. The Sahaba radiallahu anhu used to say, the most difficult thing to control is your intention. Because it fluctuates. It changes. Sometimes we come into the masjid, out of salah time, we're reading our salah. And then somebody walks in. Or we're reading Quran, we're done, we're about to close and somebody walks in. If we lengthen the recitation, we're doing it for them. If we read longer salah, we're doing it for them. If we want to give charity but we want our name on a board, who are we doing it for? If we're going on a pledge and we want everyone to know I gave it, who are we doing it for? We have to ask ourselves, this is such a simple thing in life, yet we have to ask ourselves, how many things am I doing in my life that I've been caught by shaitan and I'm doing it for someone else? Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said so beautifully, 7 people will be under the shade of the arsh of Allah. يَوْمَ لَا ظِلَّ إِلَّا ظِلُّ, the day that there is absolutely no shade. One of them, رَجُلٌ ذَكَرَ اللَّهَ خَالِيًا فَفَاضَتْ عَيْنَاهُ, a man who remembered Allah when he was alone. And the tears rolled down his face. He was alone. Nobody ever knew about it. He cried out of the love of Allah. Allah will give him shade under the arsh on the day of Qiyamah. When did we ever sit down at night without even our children knowing, without our wives knowing, without our parents knowing? Nobody sat alone in one corner, switch the light off and think of your Allah. When did we ever sit in just between us and Allah? Or when you're driving, just Allah, I love you. رَجُلٌ ذَكَرَ اللَّهَ خَالِيًا. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam says this person will get shade under the arsh of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There are so many. Today we post things on a group. We post sometimes in ayah. Sometimes we post the hadith. Why? Not because we want to spread that ayah of that hadith. Because somebody on the group, I want to hit at him. So what do? I find a suitable hadith and I post it. Is that why Allah revealed Quran? Is that why Allah revealed hadith? for us to hit out at someone? And nobody's going to change over WhatsApp. Never. If you really want to see your brother who you think is doing wrong, firstly, get up for tahajjud, lift your hands, say, Allah, give my brother hidayah. Second, give charity with nobody knowing. Third, go to him in private and talk to him and say, my brother, this is what I see, I don't think this is right. Then you are sincere to correct your brother. One of the great Sufis of the time was reading Tahajjud Salah. He hears a noise in his house. So he thinks to himself, what is going on? And then he realized that somebody is breaking into his house. So he carries on with his tahajjud. And then the thief comes in and then he perceives a man is now behind him. He says, you must be disappointed because there's nothing in my house. So the thief says, so you know I'm here? He says, yes, I know you're here and I know you came to steal. But let me tell you, I'm sorry you're disappointed, there's nothing in my house. But whoever comes into my house never leaves empty-handed. So the thief thought he must be having something hidden, he'll give it to him. He says, my brother, there's a bathroom here, please make wudu. There's a can of water, go and make wudu. So he repeats, he says, I'm a thief. He said, go and make wudu. The man goes, he makes wudu. He says, right, come, sit behind me, read 2 rakats of salah. The thief reads 2 rakats of salah. Then he says, he lifts his hand and he said, Allah, give him better than what he came for. Whatever he came for, Allah, give him better. And the only thing better than the world is your love. Allah, please give him your love. That is sincerity. That is when you care for the next person. The month of Ramadan is literally here. Our woman, mashallah, prepares so much for us. The butchers will say it's as if there's never going to be chicken for the next year. Everything is prepared. Savories are prepared. We change our diet in Ramadan. We don't change our ways in Ramadan. End of Ramadan, we say, I didn't lose weight. Don't lose weight. Lose sin. Don't pause sin in Ramadan. Leave it. Where is our Ramadan today? Where is our Jum'ah today? On a Thursday night, what would the old people do? You know, even if they had a TV in the room, they would take those cloths, cover it. Thursday night, nobody must touch the TV. On a Thursday night, everybody in the house knew it's Thursday night. Some homes, you couldn't even laugh on a Thursday night. The parents would get angry. It's Thursday night. You've got time to laugh and joke. Go and read Durud, read Surah Al-Kahf. The old people would come early for Jum'ah Salah. They would wear their best of clothing. They would apply itar. Where is Jum'ah in our life today? Let's all ask ourselves sincerely, where is Jum'ah in our life today? Where is it sincerity to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Where is our Ramadan is coming? We saw the iftar time, we saw what time are we going to break our fast? Did any of us work out what time am I going to read my tahajjud salah? What time am I going to read my Quran? Is Ramadan can't just come and go. Allah is giving it to us. Be sincere to Allah and see what Allah gives us in return. Sahaba radiallahu anhum gave their lives. They gave everything that they had for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is so many. When we are sincere to Allah, you'll see the difference. When exactly how we do in Ramadan, with that sincerity to Allah, you know, it's mind-boggling how sincere we can be to Allah in Ramadan. A little child, 5, 6, 7 years old, is fasting. They're hungry, they're thirsty. But that child will never ever go privately and take something quietly and eat or drink. Why? Because my Allah is watching me. That's the sincerity with Allah. Whatever we do it for Allah. Muhammad ibn al-Munkadir, he says, Medina had droughts. He says, I went into the masjid, I sat in the back. رَأَيْتُ الصَّالِحِينَ يَدْخُلُونَ يُصَلُّونَ وَيَدْعُونَ وَيَخْرُجُونَ. He said, I saw all the pious people, one by one, walked in, read 2 rakats of salah, made dua to Allah for rain, and they left. He said, ثُمَّ دَخَلَ رَجُلٌ. Then a man walked in, he had a scarf over his head. He said, I was at the back, so I couldn't see his face. He walked in, he read 2 rakats of salah, then he lifted his hand and he said, أَقْسَمْتُ عَلَيْكَ يَا رَبِّي أَن تُسْقِيَنَا. He said, Allah, I'm giving you an oath send the rain. This man said, Muhammad al-Munkadir said, I thought, what's wrong with this man? Who talks to Allah like that? He said, Sami'tu as-sama. I heard the clouds. I heard the thunder. Thumma mutirna. Rain descended. He said, فَخَرَّ سَاجِدًا. He went into sajda. And then he said, Ya Rabbi, man ana? Allah, who am I that because of me you send rain? He said, ثُمَّ صَلَّى الْفَجْرِ. He read Fajr Salah and he left. He said, so I followed him. I went and I saw where he lives. He said, I saw the house, made a mental note, I went away. He said, the next day I went to his house. So I went and knocked on the door. He said, the man opened the door, I made salam. And I said to him, Ta'arifuni, do you know me? So he said, no, I don't know you, but do you need your shoes fixed? So he said, I asked him, why? He said, no, that's my job. I fix people's shoes. When people's shoes break, I fix them up. So that's my job. Do you need your shoes fixed? So he said, Ana sahibuka al-bariha. I was your companion last night. So he looked at him and said, what are you talking about? He said, please tell me, what did you do in life that Allah accepted your dua and sent the rain? He said, no, it wasn't me. And he closed the door. He said, I knocked again. I said, I was there, brother. I saw you. He said, فَغَضِبَ غَضْبًا شَدِيدًا. He got so angry. He walked into his house. He took a bed sheet. He gathered some of his belongings. He threw it in there. Put it over his shoulder. And he said, he walked right past me out of his door. And he carried on walking. He said, I thought, okay, this man's very upset today. I'll come back tomorrow. He said, the next day I came, he wasn't there. Third day I came. On the third morning, he said, there was a lady there. She said to me, Ya Abdullah, ماذا فعلت به? Wallahi ma raja. He said, what did you, the old lady asked him, what did you do? This man took his belongings, he left, we don't know where he's gone, we'll never find him again. A man who Allah sent rain on his dua didn't want to be known by anyone. That's sincerity to Allah. Every action we do it for Allah. You're reading Quran, do it for Allah. You're giving charity, give it for Allah. Whatever we do, you're helping your own brother, you're helping your own sister, you're helping somebody in your family, you're helping a friend, you're helping the ummah, you gave charity, whatever. Don't ever talk about it. Leave it between you and Allah. How beautiful isn't that Arabic saying? هَلْ لَكَ سِرٌّ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ. Do you have a secret between you and Allah? لا يعلمها إلا الله. Nobody but Allah knows it. You want to keep secrets? Keep it with Allah. Go and help someone who doesn't even know you. Go and help someone who will never know you. Go and do good that nobody will ever know you did that. Then we'll see barakah in our lives. Then we know we're doing it for the sake of Allah. On the day of Qiyamah, when we come before Allah, that's when we'll realize. And as long as we're doing it only for Allah, Allah will accept. Allah is most kind. Allah is most merciful. Kifl was a man in Bani Israel. He was a man who had a lot of wealth. He went to a lady, a very pretty girl. He gave her 60 gold coins. He said, I'm coming to you. I want to spend the night with you. This girl took the 60 coins. She said, when Dhul Kifl walked into the room, she said to him, fear Allah. So he said to her, why did you accept the gold coins? She said, I am so desperate, I have absolutely nothing to eat. At that moment I thought, this is the only option I have. She said, but okay, I'm asking you for the sake of Allah, just fear Allah. The words of this woman were so sincere. Dhul Kifl took the 60 coins, he gave it to her in her hand, he told her, keep the coins and leave. She said, are you sure? He said, leave. Dhul Kifl sat that night and he made tawbah to Allah. Dhul Kifl was known amongst people for whatever they knew him for. In sajda, Allah took his life. Banu Israel, when you passed away, on your door was written whether you are forgiven or you're not forgiven. In the morning, people hear Dhul Kifl passed away. They all think this is the man who was always with women. What do they find on the door of Dhul Kifl? Inna Allah qad ghafara lil kifli. Verily, Allah has forgiven Dhul Kifl. That's the Allah we're dealing with. When you're alone, nobody needs to know. Allah hasn't created for us to go in a little room behind a curtain and confess our sins. No. Your relationship with Allah and my relationship with Allah and everybody else's relationship with Allah is the same. You talk to your Allah openly, but keep it sincere. I'll finish with one incident. A narration mentioned in Bukhari in all the big kitabs. 3 people were traveling. And Nabi Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said these 3 people were traveling and it started raining, a heavy thunderstorm. So they went into a cave. As they entered the cave, a rock came and covered the cave. So now they can't exit. So what did they do? They said, make dua to Allah through your most sincere action. The action you did only for Allah. So the first man lifted his hand, he said, oh Allah, I would go and I would bring milk for my parents. And every night when I came back, I gave my parents first. When they were done, I gave my wife and my children. Oh Allah, one night I came home, my parents had fallen asleep. I stood by their bedside the whole night. I didn't want to disturb them, Allah, because you told us to respect our parents. Oh Allah, if I did that only for you, please move the rock. And the rock moved a little bit, not enough to go out, but the rock moved. He did that sincerely for Allah. Second man comes. He says, Allah, I had a cousin who was the most beautiful woman on the earth that I had ever seen. Oh Allah, I approached her for zina. And when I sat right between her legs, she said to me, Ittaqillah, fear Allah. وَلَا تَفُدَّ الْخَاتَمْ إِلَّا بِحَقِّهِ. Don't break a seal except if it's for the sake of Allah, with the rightful rules. Don't do that. He said, Allah, with everything that I wanted, I brought gold for her. I gave her the gold and I stood up and I walked out. I didn't do haram. Oh Allah, if I did it for you, move the rock. And by Allah, the rock moved. Again, not enough to exit, but the rock moved. And don't think this is only then. Wallah, in today's time, you know, we always say these youngsters are like this, and the girls are like this, and the women at work are like this, and oh, we have so much of judgments. There are so many young people, boys, girls, who are on the verge of zina, and something clicked in them and they said, no, Allah will be upset. They stood up and they walked out. You and I will never know them, but they beloved to Allah. Third man, he lifts his hand, he said, Allah, I had a man working for me. When I gave him his wages, he wasn't here. So I took the wages and I invested it in cattle. That cattle grew, a whole farm of cattle. Years later, he came back and he said, I came for my salary. He says, Allah, I looked at him and I said, I took your salary, I put it in there. Whatever you see, all of this cattle, everything belongs to you. So the man said, are you joking? I said, no, it's yours. He said, Allah, if I did it for you, move the rock. And the rock moves and all 3 of them come out. My question is, what action do you have and do I have that we can stand before Allah 100% and say, Allah, that action I did only for you? If we ask ourselves, which action do we have? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make us among those who will be sincere and do everything for the sake of Allah. May Allah protect us from the evil of shaitan. And may Allah make this Ramadan a beautiful Ramadan. May Allah make it our blessed Ramadan. May Allah make it where we get complete forgiveness from Allah. May it be such a Ramadan where we come closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There are a few announcements that I need to make. One, with regard to the parking, brothers, please, and we say again, please and please, do not park in anyone's driveway. When you're parking, park on the right side. Park on the side of the road where we're supposed to park. Don't block the roads. Don't park in anybody's driveway. Maulana Yunus rahmatullahi, before starting any program, would say, if you block someone's driveway, go out and move your car. And he would say, don't do haram outside, which is giving taklif to somebody else, harming somebody else, and think we're sitting in a masjid and doing good. Doesn't jar. So let us make sure that we park correctly. Secondly, there is food that is prepared outside the masjid. Please make sure that we, whoever can purchase, the proceeds of that go into the masjid. Also, before we start up our sunnah, we request for the brothers to please come forward and fill the sifs from the beginning so that we don't have a problem with that. Lastly, every masjid is in need of lillah. Every masjid runs with lillah. We need funds to run the masjid. Now at our homes, we all pay the rent, we pay our bonds, we pay our lights and water, we pay our gas, we pay our internet, we pay everything. Why? Because it's ours. This is Allah's. And Allah doesn't need me and you. Let me repeat that. Allah doesn't need you and I. You know, as much as when we give, we feel I gave to the masjid, we didn't give to the masjid, Allah accepted it. We don't give. If Allah accepts our wealth, then it will go to the masjid. And if Allah hasn't accepted it, we will do what we want, our money will never go in the masjid. This masjid that we're sitting in and every other masjid throughout the world, and when when we give towards a masjid, we're not giving for the imam's salary or for the muezzin's salary. No. They work for Allah. We can't afford their time. We'll never afford the time. For the muezzin who is atwalul a'naq yawm al-qiyamah, on the day of Qiyamah, the man with the longest neck will stand up above all of us. They'll be rare. We can't afford them in the world. No, we're just making them comfortable. That's it. For the imam that reads the salah, if our salah is accepted, it's because why? The imam had to make sure his is accepted. So that we're not paying for. But for you and I to make such down a clean place, someone had to pay for that vacuum. Someone had to pay for the electricity. To have such a nice cool masjid here, someone had to pay for that. Someone has to pay for the lights. Someone has to pay for security. So if we can't afford it, may Allah grant you barakah. Don't feel guilty. Somebody will pay and inshallah the place will be clean for you. But if you can't afford it, don't make somebody else pay to clean your place of sajda. If you can afford it, don't make somebody else pay for your comfort in the masjid. And before we walk out today, in our dua, say, Allah, please accept my wealth for your house. I'll take an oath in the name of Allah. I've seen people with billions and Allah didn't accept their money for masjids. There's a man that wanted to build a masjid, identified the plot, and he did everything. And he said, nobody will build a masjid in this town but me. Wallah, 3 masjids came up till today, he hasn't built one. Not because he doesn't have the money. He's got the money, but Allah hasn't accepted it. So let us make dua, Allah, please accept my money for the masjid. For your house, oh Allah. It's an honor for Allah to take our wealth for the masjid. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us all understanding. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you all and your families in the progenies of the beautiful Ramadan. And may this Ramadan be a Ramadan that we come closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin.